We're going to be downloading zen.zip and extracting that into our lesson 11 folder. And zen.zip contains several pages at a website. It also contains CSS, and we're going to be converting this into a responsive site. And we're also going to be adding some media queries to detect tablet or desktop. And we'll be changing up codes a little bit depending on if they have a tablet or a desktop. We're also going to be doing a printer-friendly version of this. So you do want to click on it and download it. And once you have it downloaded, you're going to want to click on that to open it. Oh, let me download it again here. And we're going to open it, and then we're going to do extract all. Now you are probably going to need to change the default location, because by default it extracts it into the folder you downloaded it to. And on my system, that is my download folder. So I'm going to click on Browse, and I'm going to look for my CIT 180 Lesson 11 folder. And that's where I want to extract to. So you're going to want to make sure that is open and select it. Now it is extracting to the correct folder, and then you just click on Extract. Okay, and when it's done, you should see the Zen folder. And if you open that up, there are several pages. And if you want to see what it looks like now, you can open the home page in a browser. Okay, and this is what it looks like now. So it's going to look a lot better once we add the code for grid view, because basically all the formatting codes as far as columns have been stripped out for this exercise that we are going to do. Okay, so this is what it looks like now. So the first thing we're going to do with this is adjust our CSS. So we're going to open up our CSS folder, and you'll notice that we have some CSS called screen. Now this is pretty common if you have a print and a screen version, that you name the screen version screen and the print version print.css. Okay, so I'm going to right click and I'm going to open this with VS Code. And I should probably close some of these. We're going to be adding in our grid view codes. So right at the top, we're going to do the box sizing border box. And this is going to impact everything. So we are using the wildcard. And then below that, we're going to add a little code, basically to specify that we are going to be setting these up in rows. We're creating a row class. And we're going to implement this after the HTML element that we put it in. So we're going to put class equal row into an HTML element, and the CSS that we put inside here is going to apply after that element. So basically what we're going to do is blank out content here. And we're going to do a clear both. And that will kind of get rid of any lingering floats. And most importantly, we are going to tell it that the display should be a table. Okay, and it's below this that we're going to do the grid view. Okay, so we're basically saying set this up similar to an HTML table. Okay, so that's row after. And then we're going to kind of scroll down here. I'm going to go to the bottom and I'm going to put the comments in. Now the comments are optional, but they are kind of helpful for anybody who wants to kind of follow this that's not as familiar with CSS. So first thing that we're going to do is set up some CSS for mobile. And we are going to use the class asterisk equal column dash so that we kind of apply it to all the columns. So we've got class asterisk equals col dash. And then we'll do our opening curly at the end of this. So we're setting the width to 100%, which is what we need for mobile. If you want to put a comment in to help yourself, the comment that I have in the notes is this is being overridden in tablet and desktop. So basically the codes that we're putting in for the tablet and the desktop are overriding this. And I think I spelled overridden wrong. There we go. Okay. So we've got float left, which is what we've always had here. So this is setting defaults for everything, including tablet and desktop. So if you want to put that comment in, you can. The comments are not necessary. The browser ignores them. So it's just kind of a visual cue for you if you want help remembering. So we're setting padding to 15 pixels. And this is setting the default for everything, including tablet and desktop. So the width 100% is really going to only affect mobile. Float left and padding is going to affect everything because we're not going to override those. Width 100 will be overridden for tablets and desktops because remember that we're setting up all of those columns with the varying widths. So the next little section, we are going to do a media query. And so basically they're kind of like what if queries. So we're basically saying if the minimum width is 600, execute the code. Okay, so we're going to say at media. And typically these queries do check size. Sometimes they will check orientation because things display different in portrait or landscape, but primarily it's screen size. And we say min width is 600. So if this is true, whatever we put in between the opening and closing curly brace is going to be executed. And this is basically code for tablets. So I'm going to pause this while I key in all of these column widths. So as you can see, we've keyed in all the column widths, and you'll notice that there's a little M in the middle. And that's going to differentiate these column classes from the desktop column classes. So below this is where we are checking for the desktop. And we're going to use another media query. And now we're checking for a minimum width of 768. So let's say minimum width is 650. It's going to execute this. Minimum width of your screen is 800. It's going to come through and execute this. Minimum width is 500. It doesn't execute either one. it makes the width for everything 100%. Okay, so I'm going to pause while I get the desktop code in here. And the desktop code, basically we're setting the columns up. This is the same exact settings that we used over in the Acme vertical. But you'll also notice that we added a body tag or selector here. And this is going to override what we have set up here. Okay, so if any of the settings are the same, the one that is down here, if we're dealing with a desktop, okay, so if the minimum width is greater than 768, it's going to implement these settings. Okay, so this allows us to put in a background image that may not be appropriate for tablet or mobile. And it also allows us to adjust color and other things for the body section of a desktop display. You'll also notice that we can set the maximum width for this display as well. And that is what we have done for desktop only. Okay, so if we're dealing with a tablet or a phone, this code is not going to execute. And likewise, if you wanted special code for your tablet, you could specify that in here, and the only time it would execute is if it detected the proper screen size. So now we're going to save this, because at this point our CSS is pretty much done. And we're going to open up the home page that is in our Zen folder. And so basically what we have to do is add those classes into this HTML. And so the first class we're going to add is the row class, because that says everything that's after the element should be displayed as a table. And then we're going to have the multiple columns in the table. So in section is where we're going to put this. And we're just going to say class equals row. So from the point right below that, from nav down until it hits the end section right here, everything inside here is going to be treated like a table. Okay, now for setting up our columns. So in the nav element, we're going to say class equals, we're going to set up a class for desktop and for mobile. So for desktop, we want 25%. So we're going to say call-3. And for mobile, we're going to do call-m-3. Okay, and call-m-3 is also 25%. So that takes care of the navigation area. Down in our div, we're going to add classes there as well. So I'm going to copy this so I don't have to key in quite so much. And now I'm going to adjust here. So I'm going to change call3 to 6. And M-3 is going to be changed to M-9. So again, to refresh our memories, we go back and look. Call 6 is 50%. And M-9 is 75%. Okay, so we've got a little difference in those two. And then we're going to come down for the aside. And I'm going to do a little paste in here as well. And let me kind of fix this up here. For the aside, call 3 is correct for desktop, but for tablet, we're going to change the 3 to a 12. So in a tablet scenario, the first column is 25, the second is 75. Well, that takes up all of the width. So the aside section, it's going to end up being a separate row, and it's going to be 100%. Now, if we're dealing with a desktop where we have a little bit more room, we got the navigation at 25%. We got some content that's 50%, and then we have the aside on the right, and that is 25%. Okay, so at this point, we have the columns the way we want. And let's save this, and we're going to have to put basically those same settings in the other web pages. So let us open these. And I'm going to pause while I do this, because basically I'm just going to copy and paste. Okay, because they all have section, nav, div, and aside. So it's just basically the same changes in every single one of those pages. So I will come back when I am done adjusting. So I've gone through and made the changes. Treatment details is a little different because we don't have the aside in treatment details. There's just a lot of content in this one. So there is one little adjustment. For tablet, what we have is fine. But for desktop, we are going to need to adjust this just a little bit. So it's 100% because we don't have the aside that's got the 25%. So we're just going to have call 3 and call 9 for desktop. Okay. And so at this point, we're going to save all. And we're going to take a look. Actually, I'll just reload this. And hopefully it looks a lot better. Yay. It's just amazing what a little responsive code can do. So let me adjust the sizing. So you can see this is what it's designed to do. What do I have the magnification at? Sometimes I have my pages. No, that's not bad. Let's test with different magnification levels. And let's take a look at on some of the other browsers. Now, let's see. Let me pull a Chrome tab over here. Yeah, in order to test this, you have to make sure it's not maximized. I can see one thing that we probably should adjust is this box shadow. I'm not really loving that. Or we can just adjust the size. Yeah, I think we're going to adjust the size of that. So we're going to adjust the width of this little candle image and set the max width to 200 pixels because that looks way better. So to do that, we're going to have to go into each one of these pages and change max width to 200. So let's go ahead. And that means that if it needed to be smaller, it can be, but it will not be larger than 200. And I did not like how it looked when it was overlaying the text. and I am incredibly picky. So it just didn't look right. So now we're going to fix it. And that's all it takes to fix that kind of an issue. So now let's reload and take a look. That looks much better. And if we resize, it still looks pretty good. And it gets to a certain point and it just displays everything more vertical. This would be like for a phone. And remember, it's okay to scroll down. We just don't want to have to scroll horizontally. I mean, most people expect that they're going to have to scroll down. Okay, so at this point, it looks really good. So we're going to move on and talk a little bit about printer friendly, or we're going to actually create printer friendly, because let's take a look and see how this prints. And checking printing is a little easier in Chrome just because you can press Control-P and get into print preview. So this is how it would look now. Okay, so it's kind of an ink waster. And so what we're going to be doing with the printer friendly is kind of stripping out all of the images, taking out all of the color, getting rid of the borders. And so we are going to be setting this up to basically print out text. Okay, and that'll be the next video.